Ladies and gentlemen, Arielle, Isaac, Norman. What's up, dude? How are you? Nice to see you.
Good, thanks. Does my hair look okay? I haven't checked anything.
Your hair looks great. Congrats on the new special.
Thanks.
Dude, we were just literally before we started rolling, we were talking about Reddit r/stand-up, which is just true comedy hell. The second layer of comedy hell.
You've engaged with that some?
I've been in there, and it's truly like there is a line in a Pusha T song, which is it just says bricklayers and ball shorts coaching from the side of the ball court, and it basically just means it's like people that coach basketball that literally can't hit a fucking jump shot.
Yeah.
And that's all Reddit stand-up is.
Yes.
Which just one day I went down this rabbit hole. I go on Reddit stand-up, and you know there's moderators on everything.
Yeah.
Like I'll look up like the moderators on like all these different subreddits, but I went on the Reddit stand-up one, and I just looked into the three guys that are running r/stand-up.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced you can't be a stand-up admin, not even on a Facebook group, and be remotely funny.
Yeah.
If you get in that space, you're just fucked.
No one has time to do that probably if they're a real comedian, would be my guess.
Yeah.
You don't have time to be an admin on our stand-up. I mean, because it's like I've only engaged with it a tiny bit, and I don't really use Reddit, so I don't like understand the culture that much. But like one time I tried to post something on there, and I did couch it and like, hey, what do you guys think of this? Because it was like supposed to be like an advice thing, and so I was like, all right, I'm just trying to get engagement on this, but I was just like, what do you guys think of this? And it was my joke about Rogan, and I've only told it a couple times, but I told this at that Punchline show, you know, with the stripper or the pole dancers and the comics. And so it's because it came up from some heckling thing, and so I was like, you know, Rogan kind of got in trouble famously a long time ago for saying that like there's no way that lesbians are as good in bed as men because we don't have the lower back muscles. And I'm like, honestly, I'm sure that's true. Like we don't have like I'm the first one to say, you know, women are not as strong as men. But I'm like, but the thing is like, if I'm fucking you and I come, I just get stronger. If a man's fucking you, when he comes, he doesn't love you anymore. So, and that's a joke. And the audience goes crazy for it. I mean, I made $400 that night because people were throwing me money. I mean, it was great. It was a great set. And like, and it's clear that the audience loves it. It's just, you know, and then everyone on our stand-up thing was just like, women aren't funny. This is stupid. You know, blah, 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 Joe Rogan. You know, and I'm like, okay, but Joe Rogan follows me on Instagram, so maybe you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And they were like, the audience didn't even, I can't believe the audience. When I'm like, just like, you guys don't know. And so it became clear to me that they don't, like it says maybe they're open micers. If there's some level below open micer that we could call them. I don't even think some of them do stand up.
A layer of hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Just these people that, man, I mean, there's something like specifically toxic about just message boards in general.
Yeah.
Where I think, you know, you made the point that it's like, okay, no one who's a moderator in those spaces is funny because no one would have the time to do it if you're actively pursuing stand-up.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's just like the inherent need to be a moderator or an authority or tell someone what's right and wrong is just so counter to like what stand-up is that I don't think you can function as both things at the same time.
It's kind of like volunteering to work at the DMV. Like you have hate in your heart and you just want to like share that. That's kind of the vibe from that whole community. Yeah. And like, so my producers for the special 4x3 were like hammering on me to like post yesterday about my special on there. And I was like, all right. And I just posted a thing on there. And so I posted my joke. It was just a clip of my Michael Jackson, you know, promoting puberty blockers joke, which I think those people would have loved that. Like the whole thing about like, you know, Michael Jackson being, you know, a proponent of puberty blockers if he were alive today. Like I think they would have loved that joke. But the only part that's in the clip that my producer sent me was the part where Oprah comes out, or where Michael Jackson comes out to Oprah in 2023 as non-binary, and my pronouns are he, they, and and like there's only 6 people who like even engage with it at all. We're just like, you know, this isn't funny. And then one of them was like, well, this would be funny if it weren't like a meme I'd seen a million times. And I'm like, well, number one, like I wrote that joke in 2018. So I imagine that meme that has been memed at some point. And someone even sent it to me, you know, a couple after seeing me, you know, tell it, like I've gotten a message with a meme, but I'm like, I wrote that joke, you know what I mean? Like I hadn't seen anyone do it. I've still never seen anyone say it besides me. And I'd never seen a meme until long after I'd already been telling it. And someone did send me one, but I'm like, so too, like, I'm sorry that you're all are online so much. You've seen every meme. Like a lot of jokes that people tell in stand up also get memed at some point before, after, during. Like multiple people come up with things. It makes sense that people would come up with that. And it's also like, so you want every joke that's ever been told to only get told in one format? Like if it ever gets memed, then a stand up can't say it. Or a stand up should go back retroactively and take things out of their sets that later get memed.
Like, especially even at our level, you're doing material that like has never even been touched.
Yeah,
is so crazy.
Yeah,
like we're all crossing paths. There's 10,000 stand-ups at this point in the country, probably. Like
at least, yeah.
Things are getting hit from multiple angles.
And not just stand-ups, but again, like meme pages and whatever. And who knows? I mean, I'm not even. It's possible that someone saw my joke and made a meme, but again, it's something I don't doubt that multiple people would come up with it. But I don't even think within stand up that like only one person can ever tell a joke. You got to write it yourself. You got to tell it different. Two people might have the same premise but different punchlines. You might have similar punchlines, but you've both get different angles that you're going at them from. And it's like, so what? Only one person can ever tell a joke, because then like how few people are ever going to see it if only one person could ever tell a joke. But again, that's my fault for not thinking through, like, these people are so online. There's no way they haven't seen a meme of this. I got to tell my retard jokes on the Reddit. You know, like I just go hard, you know.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's also the fault of the clip too, which is like things are part of a greater bit, and it makes more sense in context.
Well, and especially because all of my stuff, you know, I'm always writing the line with my kind of, you know, politically fluid stuff where I'm like, I'm going to challenge both sides. I'm going to like be nuanced. It's like very risky nuance. And so you have to like, you'll see half of the joke and then the other half of the joke. And yeah, if you don't have all the context, then you're not seeing like, I got to like pacify the liberals a little bit and then piss them off, and then pacify the conservatives a little bit and then piss them off. So it sucks is it's like, I really need people to watch the whole special, and it's hard to give them just 60-second clips. But we live in this stupid, you know, TikTok era where people want the shortest thing possible. And it's like, well, you're not going to get a lot of the context here.
Let's say it is tough because you've got to give them some sort of context or teaser to make them want to watch it.
Right.
Because it's like, it's so hard to convince someone to give them an hour of your time.
I'm only asking for 35 minutes.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
35 minutes is a good number.
Yeah, I think
it's a clean little boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's really great. I think so.
I think
it's the best 35 minutes you could spend.
Did it drop? It dropped yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get this by the time this comes out. It'll be 2 weeks ago, but that's totally fine.
That's fine.
Who gives a fuck?
I think I don't know how any of the stuff works, but I think all the views in the first month are big, so let's go with that.
Let's just get it fucking ripping, dude.
Let's go.
So you started stand up in Austin, right?
No, I actually started it in Boston about a year before I moved to Austin.
No shit.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
What was it? What year were you in Boston?
2014.
What was it? I was there in 2017. What was it like?
I mean, the open mic / little showcase scene. It was great in many ways. I remember because the Comedy Studio, was it still there in 2017?
It had just shut down.
Okay, so the Comedy Studio was such a big thing for newer comics. It was really cool. You know, Rick Jenkins had this great place where the audiences were really intelligent and like culturally literate, and that was really nice.
It's in Cambridge, right?
Yeah, Cambridge. So it was all, a lot of the people who would go there were like Tufts, MIT, Harvard people, among other people, but just Harvard or just Boston and Cambridge were just places where intelligent people like to live, and so we had great audiences. I knew any reference I threw out they would get, which was not the case when I moved to Austin.
Yeah.
It was really that was the most frustrating thing, is because like audiences here thought that they were intelligent and literate people, but like they just there's just a lot they're not going to get, especially anything highbrow was going to be gone, anything kind of just literary references.
Even back then. So
yeah. Well, especially back then, I would say, because it was more of a college town, and UT isn't the most, like, no shade to UT, it's a good school, but it's not like the most literary kind. It's still like a kind of Texas party atmosphere a little bit, and what
Texas party if you needed 2,000 on your SATs to get in.
Is that a high score?
I think something
I forget.
like that.
I'm from the 1600 era of SAT scores, so I don't even do the math on that. I mean, I guess I could. That's a really simple SAT question, but but yeah, no, I mean, Boston was the thing that was weird to me about the open mic scene then, and this is where I started, but a lot of people were telling the same jokes every open mic
in
Boston. That's true in Austin as well, I guess, but like it was a little more complicated.
Bro, it was like that when I started there.
Yeah, in Boston, brutal. And it would be, and it was just like, it'd be one thing if there were audiences that were like actual people, but a lot of times it would be like the same 11 comics that had been at the open mic the night before, or the open mic earlier that night, telling to the same people the same jokes the same way, and I'm like, how are you going to sit there and, yes, it's a different mic, but you're doing the same stuff to the same people. Like, why would you do that? You're not going to learn anything from it. I guess people are getting their 10,000 hours of stage time, 4 minutes at a time. But
yeah.
But it was very professional as well. Like, there's such a history of stand-up there. And so, like, things were, like, people knew how to just handle the mic or run shows or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when I moved to Austin, it was a little bit more kind of DIY here. There were a lot of really talented people, but there was just a lot where not everyone really knew how to like host a show right, or knew what to do with the mic stand, or just kind of basic things like that.
Yeah.
Were kind of spotty. There were a number of people who used to do this thing, and I'm sure you've seen this. You'll see it every now and then where someone will just like end their set and then walk away without saying goodbye, and a lot of times you can get kind of a laugh if you end weirdly like that, just because people are like, okay, haha.
Yeah.
But there was just too many people weirdly doing that and feeling like they thought they were cool, just ending their set abruptly and walking away. It was just like, I noticed weird things like that where I'm like, okay, what's going on here? But over the first year or two of being here, we had such a good scene. We had a lot of talent, and people were, we had a lot of independent shows, and like Buzzmill, which is a good show here every Wednesday at 9, and free, but it used to be way better because they hadn't put that like middle part up, like the roof.
Really?
Yeah. And so what would happen is, it's kind of better for people who suck at comedy. It's kind of better now because you have those 3 rows of people who are definitely engaged. But before, what would happen is, if you were killing, the entire backyard would all like just turn their attention and be on you. So you could have like, I don't know, 200 people or something, just all like, what? And so it was like so fun, the difference between someone just like crushing for those people versus just killing in the whole thing. And that was such a fun thing to go for. But at the time, it was like, they didn't even do a tip jar. We did get used to be, paid in food or something, but there's so many shows that were like free, that were making so much money for the bar, that people were loving. I mean, these are good people who later go on to SNL and open for Chelsea Handler and this, that, or the other. And it was just all given away for free. So I started working with like all the showrunners and just telling them, negotiate with the bar, get money. Do a tip jar. What are you doing? I know, if you can't charge for whatever. And so like changing the Austin scene to get to the place where we get paid for everything and there's no norm of like doing all this shit for free.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a new norm of like, I think a lot of shows are making crazy money for independent. It's nuts right now. It's like a whole new time.
Yeah.
It's insane. I mean, so we were talking about this last night. Like there's a bunch of people from the old scene. I think more people have come around on this, but like right off the bat, you liked the change that was brought in during the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I always wanted.
Yeah.
Because I want, this is my career, this is my passion, like this is what I think I'm on earth to do, and I didn't want to move to LA or New York for various reasons, and I still don't. And so like I got to the point in 2019. By 2019, I was like thoroughly like, I can't grow here anymore. I don't have anyone. I don't have enough people to learn from. I don't have enough people to challenge me to be better. I don't have enough people to collaborate with. Like all of the things. And it was pretty depressing. And I was planning on going. I was actually going to go to Vegas for a minute, and then be near LA, and then kind of transition to probably being in LA and whatever. But even it's like the LA comedy scene, the stand up isn't, everybody just wants to be on TV, and the quality isn't as good. It's not really what I wanted. I was like, if I'm going to grow as a comic, I probably should go to New York, but I'd lived there before, and I was like, I don't want my standard of living to, God, that's gonna, oh God. So spoiled in Austin, having outside, it's warm and I get to be outside and like have a nice, and so in 2020 when the pandemic hit, it slowed my plans down to move, and then it wasn't but a few months later when Rogan started intimating that he might move to Austin, and I knew that was going to mean that things would be changing here in a way that would really help my career goals.
100%.
Yeah, and then Creek and Cave's coming, and Tony, and like more and more people started kind of Tim Dillon was like, I think I'm gonna come, and so as that kind of happened, I was like, all right. And if you had told me, by then I did listen to Rogan a little bit. Like in 2020, a friend at work had turned me on to kind of various podcasts, various podcast world. And like, I remember like I had heard Jordan Peterson's name used for years as like a punchline in liberal circles, but I really never had any idea who that was. And I then was like, all right, let me listen to Rogan talking to Peterson. That'll be two birds with one stone. I can figure out what's going on with these people who are used as like liberal punchlines. And I listened and I'm like, all right, these are two clearly like well-meaning guys who, have interesting thoughts and takes and are not the caricature that they're made out to be. And so, that also sent me into a thing of like, oh, okay. So it was like, right. It was probably only a few months of me being kind of like, oh, I like listening to Rogan. So I do listen to some of these episodes. Yeah. When all of a sudden he's announcing he's moving to Austin, and I'm like, wow, like I just got on board with this guy. And here we go. And so, I mean, I could be happier with the changes because I think with the Kill Tony impact, when people talk about like the Rogan impact, like a lot of what the impact that's happened here is actually Kill Tony impact because, people see that as a chance to have meteoric success and a rise to fame and whatnot. And so like a lot of really shitty open micers are visiting and moving here all the time. And they think that they can just say, like bigoted things and that'll work. They know a lot of them don't have punchlines and things. And so I know for like open micer level people, it's the scene here is way worse than it was when I was an open micer. Like it was a nice place.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, there's definitely, no matter where you go, there is a boundary between the show crowd, people that do shows and the people that do mics. But here, man, it's like you go to some of these open mics and it's like what you were describing in Boston in 2014. Like it reminds me of starting in Boston in 2017.
Really?
Where it's just like it's tough and people are waiting 3 hours to go up, and you're just struggling and trying to like find the time and trying to find a way to be able to just get on stage. And most of the time the way to do it is to either go to a place where there's nobody, or if it's a relatively good open mic, you can hang around and do 3 minutes. Yeah. I think like to your point, like the Kill Tony scene, when I moved here, that was something that I wanted to do. I did want to get on like desperately, and I did see it as like, okay, I'm a good comic. I can piece together a minute and I'll be fine. And
did you do it?
I did. And it didn't go well at all. Yeah. I mean, I know you've been a guest on the show. Did you ever do it as like a bucket?
No, Tony, like we had met, a couple times, and we were at like at Skankfest in a green room in 2021, and he was like, hey, you ever, want to do are you ever going to do Kill Tony? I was like, I don't really want to put my name in a thing and stand around with I just, and he was like, oh, just come do my panel. And I was like, okay. And I didn't really know much about the show anyway. I'd barely ever engaged with it. It was so fun. I mean, I loved it. I loved the show. Like I wished I had known a little more about it. And I was in a weird position because Tony had been very clear of like, don't feel like you need to talk too much. Like everyone feels like they should. And it was weird. There's not enough mics or something. And so, I felt like a little bit weird about my performance on that panel just because I was like a little bit like out of my element and trying to figure out when to talk and
Yeah.
not and stuff. And, you know, his whole kind of YouTube brigade are similar to those Reddit people where they see me and they go, look at this dumb they, them, vegan, feminist bitch, you know, and it's like, yeah, you guys would probably like a lot of what I have to say if you actually
hell yeah.
listen to it. But I make fun of
you
them.
Get past the fucking haircut, you dickheads.
Yeah, like this really works on the ladies, you incels. Yeah. So I'm not trying to attract you, guy. Yeah, so I think the show's really great in many ways, and I think he's elevated so many people who never would have had that kind of opportunity that it's really great. I think he's really funny. So I still, you know, sometimes if I criticize him in a certain, people are like, yeah, and he's not funny, and like all of his jokes. I'm like, I've always actually really liked his jokes for the most part.
Yeah. And then from the roast angle.
Yeah,
monster.
he's very, very talented. I wish I could go back and watch that Icebox special, the one shot or whatever, right? The one that he did at the Ice House. Sorry.
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah, it came out years ago when Netflix had just introduced the rating thing. Of like where they would guess whether you'll like something. Okay. And so for most stand-ups, you know, it would give me somewhere between, you know, 80 and 96% sure I would love it. But for his, it was something like 28%. I was like, who is this guy that they are so sure? Like, what's a stand-up? They're so sure I'm going to hate that much. And I watch it. And maybe it's just because I was super high, but I loved it. Yeah. I loved it. And so then, you know, I remember like Ty making fun of it in one of his latest videos. And I'm like, I wonder if I went back now, would I hate it? I don't know. Like, I think I like Tony's joke.
I mean, dude, it's a crazy time in that, like, yeah, I mean, to your point, that show, like, if you are built for it and you get on and you do well, it can be a game changer. Mm-hmm. But it can also just be like, it can be 2 years of you sitting in the pit or out at like fucking Poor Choices for 2 years. Yeah. Not getting up with no chance of you ever getting on that show. And it's like that for me, I think it's just like, dude, you're just better off like if you don't have any jokes, I can't think of a worse place for you to go. Right. Like unless you're tailor-made to smash on it. Right. Like fuck, man. And there's also just so many people where, you know, when I moved down here and I would watch the show, it was really exciting at the beginning because I would watch every week and I would see my friends get pulled from the bucket, which was cool as fuck. Yeah. Every clip was like, I know him. I do shows with him. Yeah. This is fucking great. Oh my God, she's crushing. This is fucking awesome. And now when I watch it, because it's at the mothership, it has just caused so many people to just move down here who have never done comedy, who don't know anything about stand-up. And you're watching people get pulled up and it's like, never seen that person in my life. Yeah. Sure enough, it's somebody that's done stand-up 4 times. Right. They don't have anything to say. And you can see it. It's like, I watched the last episode, and even Tony's getting annoyed where he's like, this person is like, yeah, I've never done it. I've never done stand-up. And it used to be a cool thing where it's like, oh, you've never stand-up. Give it up for this person. Yeah, it's just like, he was like, enough. Like, why do you guys think it's a good idea to sign up for this show? Right. If you've never done comedy, this is such a terrible idea. Don't do that. And honestly, fuck you for even signing up. Get the fuck out of here. Right. I've never seen anything like that.
I'm glad he's saying that because it's probably hurting his show as well. You want a mixture. And some people just like they want any amount of fame so much, and a lot of men especially, but just people are delusional that they really think a lot of these people have no idea how much work we've all put into our stand-up, and so they show up thinking I'm funny, I got this thing, and they don't know what it's going to be like to hold a microphone without that pressure. They don't know the timing. They don't know anything like that, and so they really just are so sure that this racist thought that they had is going to kill. And it really, people, and I'll run into people sometimes who they'll tell me, like, they've got some crazy story and they want to go on Kill Tony and share it and whatever. I'm like, the thing is, like, that story is really cool if you do well. Like, this, there's, like, if you have that story to tell in your interview, after you crush, that'll be great. If you bomb, which you will because you haven't done stand-up ever, then it's going to be like, okay, we feel kind of bad for you. Here's your little notebook or something. You keep trying, but like, it's not going to go well. You'll embarrass yourself. You'll feel bad about it. So yeah, people should stop. I mean, I hear that the New Year's wasn't it New Year's at the at Moody or something? When did they do it?
Yeah.
Where apparently it was like really bad. Like nobody was good except for maybe Nikki.
Well, holy fuck. I mean, if you've never done stand-up and not only are you trying it on a live podcast, but you're trying it in front of a fucking arena full of people, what makes you think that is going to go well? Are
Testosterone?
Are you crazy? Yeah.
Yeah, ketamine. I don't know what these people are on.
Dude, a little ketamine, a little TRT.
A little K.
Come on, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
That's an interesting speedball.
Yeah, dude. Well, last night we were also like, we were talking about lesbian bars.
Oh, yeah.
Which you seem less enthused about the lesbian bar.
Well, just a sad state of affairs, but we need lesbian bars. I would like to start one in Austin if I could find the time for that. If I could, or just get people to start it with me, or from, you know, I mean, I would like to have influence though, because people always just ruin lesbian bars. Yeah. It's hard to have lesbian bars because it is true that there are fewer lesbians than any other demographic of sexuality, and although we got a lot of new lesbian recruits, but then because of the women, you know, the trans women, but then we also lose a lot of lesbians because of the trans men, but then at the same time those trans men a lot of times still want to go to lesbian spaces, so it's all, but we don't, and lesbians famously, like, you know, couple up, don't go out as much. We also just make less money as any kind of, you know, because women make less money than men for various reasons. And so. Allegedly. Well, we do, but it's like, part of it's because of, like, you know, child care, you know, choices, but it's also, and sometimes it's child care, you know, realities that you don't want. But it's also like women tend to, for various reasons, are more into doing nonprofit work or like caring stuff that probably should be valued more a lot of times. Not all the nonprofits should be valued at all, but you know, if you go into being a poet or whatever kind of fucking female ass things, like, you're just gonna make less money. A lot of times women are more motivated to do caring shit than make money. You know, men have the testosterone to make the money.
The dual poet relationship.
Yeah, dual poet income family is not.
Who picks up the check on the date in the two poet relationship?
Yeah, exactly. It's rough. So you know, without as much disposable income, and they're not as motivated to go out to bars to like hit on each other. You know, like our sex drives are more manageable, and so we're not as predatory, you know, we're not as on the prowl, like, let's go out and like find a hookup, you know. So
well, there is that like age-old bit, right, which is like, what does a lesbian bring on a first date? A U-Haul, right? And that's like a classic joke.
Do you know what do lesbians bring on a second date?
What?
A turkey baster. That's the follow-up. I don't know if you
Let's start that over, Joe.
Yeah.
Because, like, dude, I wanted to tell this story, but it's like immediately everyone's gonna be like, "We all know who you're talking about, Joe. You fucking idiot."
All right, yeah.
Okay, so one of my lesbian friends from back home, her and her girlfriend, they went on 8 dates before they like even hooked up in any way, and I was just thinking about that. And I'm like, if that was 2 guys, there's no chance you even make it. Like, I think that's why Grindr is a thing, is because you just get like 2 doses of testosterone put in the same room, and it's like, it just becomes people's dicks on the internet.
Look, gay men are acting like men. Like, straight men would do the same shit if they could. If straight men could find dates on Grindr, they, you know, with women on Grindr, it's just that's men's sexuality versus women's sexuality.
Yes.
So I'm saying some people like to pretend there's no differences between the sexes, but that's obviously bullshit. And so. So women just we're not as motivated to go and spend money and hit on people and do all that. And we're very happy to find each other and go stay at home with our cats and, you know, just get high and watch our shows and whatever together. Like, that's, and so, but the other issue is that every time there's like a lot of lesbian bars that used to exist then became very queer, and like lesbians have an even tougher time excluding people than just the gay men in general. Like, so like Cheer Up Charlie's here in Austin used to be a lesbian bar. It was definitely a lesbian bar. And then they became a queer bar. And then it really kind of became more like a hipster kind of bar, whatever the word we should use. It was
trying to be a music venue for a little bit.
Well, yeah, they've always done
like
music.
Gay, heavy influence.
Yeah, just that kind of like, we'll put all the flags up and be very like, yay, this is a safe space for everything. But like, it went from being somewhere where you would go and there were consistently lots of lesbians there to going and it was like all kinds of queers and very like queer more than gay. Yeah. And then it became like, okay, these are just people who are into this weird music and they a lot of them might have weird haircuts.
That is how I did end up there multiple times. Is they're like, you could walk into Cheer Up Charlie's and you're like, why the fuck is Bagley here?
I end up there a lot too. They're Coconut Club, and then
If me and Brandon end up at your gay bar, your gay agenda has failed.
Is it bad that we're there?
I don't know, because these things are so watered down in the first place, and it's good. It's nice that straight people, don't despise gay clubs anymore. That's definitely progress from some stuff from a few decades ago. But it would be nice to also have some times where we kind of had more exclusion. Like, I think for lesbian bars, because it's not sustainable in a business sense to make it just like only lesbians here. Or it doesn't seem to be sustainable. But then we could do something where it was like, all right, Tuesday night or like Saturday night is specifically lesbian night, like really encouraging people, maybe even saying no one else can come. And then you could do something where it was like, all right, but Thursday night is a night where we say, everyone can come. You could have themes and stuff where it was kind of making it so that you could have both. But like, actually, when I was in Korea and Seoul, they have a number of lesbian bars there, and you have to be a woman. And they're not going to make you prove that you're a lesbian, I guess.
Like back to like the Reddit thing, do you think that if you were to actually start like a bar, right, and you go, okay, Thursday night is lesbian night, and it is for women that are lesbians, period, and we want to have a space for us to link up. Do you think if you actually go out and you make that a thing, do you think you end up on some Reddit board where they call you a TERF and that's what happens?
Yeah, I don't know much about the like trans rights activist or whatever you want to call it wing of Reddit. I guess
like Reddit's not necessarily the example, but do you think you end up being dragged online?
If I were to say literally only females, then yes. If it were like, okay, these nights are going to be only actual lesbians, then I could get away with that. And I'm not like, but I'm not even like trying to necessarily exclude all trans women from things. There are some orgies I would like to maybe have where there's no penises. That's for various issues. I've never touched one. My girlfriend has a lot of trauma. You know what I mean? Like that would be nice. And I've literally like recently went to, not exactly an orgy, but like a play party is what they call them. And it was supposed to be all female. We were promised that, and everyone who was there was going to be vetted, and it was all female except for one person who looked exactly like Tim Dillon in a dress and who just came and like sat in the corner most of the time watching us. It was very creepy. At one point, this person joined in a game of truth or dare in a really weird way where like we were all supposed to take turns like putting our hand in this chick's mouth.
You girls having a good time.
Right. Well, this person literally like we were all taking turns doing this thing, and then after they took their turn, like they got back in line to do it again, and like no one else was doing that. It was and the person had to be like, no, I'm good. Like she was being very sweet to even let, and it's the thing is like, it's just not, we can't be like, my girlfriend especially like couldn't relax. Like she has too much trauma for that. Like she can't, and she's very, she really has like a lot of intuitions around men. She's very wary of men, for good reasons. And so her hackles are raised by most men. And, but we know a lot of trans women, and I introduce her to new trans women all the time and stuff because of, especially in comedy, I'm always meeting more. And so like there are trans women who she absolutely feels safe around and will be totally comfortable around in all these situations. And then there are some of my trans women friends and acquaintances where she's like, that's a man. No. Yeah. And that's how I feel too. It's like some trans women are women. And so, I mean, if I were going to start a lesbian thing, it would be a truly underground, offline situation, invite only. And so there might be some trans women that I would invite. Although most of the trans women who seem, I don't want to say that. Okay. But I'll self-censor that thought for this. But I would be vetting the situation anyway. There's plenty of non-trans women that I don't want to come to my parties either. But my thing is like we do have an underground lesbian party here in Austin, and it used to be that it was either were trans women even the first times that I went there, but it was like lesbians. It was very much lesbians. And then the next time I went, there started being more non-binary people. And the last time I went, it was just a ton of dudes there.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think what happens is the moment you're like, hey, we're going to have an all lesbian, we're like, this is a lesbian party and it's underground. And so you're not going to talk about it online. And people are like, oh, is that because you don't want to have trans women there? And they're like, no, of course you don't have trans women there. And then the next question that comes up is, what about non-binary people? And then, you know, it's like against our religion to ask, you mean non-binary dudes or chicks? And so you're asking, no, they're not dudes or chicks. You know, you can't. And so I think that probably that's how that went, is that someone was like, what about non-binary people? Like, oh, of course. And so like that last time that I went, it was, we're like reading the description, and they go like, people of all genders and sexes welcome. I'm like, why not just say lesbians? Even, let's not transphobic, just say need to be a lesbian.
But do you think that someone would go, yeah, it is? Like, do you think it'll eventually get to the point where it all just gets under like one queer umbrella? What do you mean? I don't know. Where like, do you think there's someone, like there's a section of, I guess, the queer LGBT community that's just like, yeah, the term like lesbian is transphobic because of like X, Y.
I mean, there are people who say that, but at the same time, there's a lot of trans women who identify as lesbians and very happily. So it's, you know, everyone's split on all kinds of the language. Yeah. You know, and some of it's really annoying because some of the people who are the most like, you know, trans positive in all the spaces are like bisexual or pansexual. And so they don't seem to understand like why some of us would have an issue with letting in anyone. But this is also the self-ID thing. Like, you can't really, there's no way to go, all right, that person really seems like a chick, that one doesn't, at the door. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so that's why I'm saying it would be invite only for me, because that way I could just invite the people that I thought, you know, I felt comfortable with. And there are people who I think, whether they're kind of like, you know, pervert misogynists who are like, hey, I'm a woman now. I don't think there's that much of that, but some people are just kind of autistic and or like a little, you know, they're confused. The gender ideology thing has really poisoned a lot of people's minds, and they think that because they are turned on by wearing women's clothes that means they're a woman. And people with philosophy degrees have given them long-winded explanations of why gender isn't even a thing, or sex or biological sex isn't real, and like there's so much confusion that like. There's a lot of people who they're not going like this, hey, I'm gonna get into women's spaces too much. Yeah. I think that they're just confused, and they don't realize, like so many men don't realize the threat that they pose to women, even if they think they're good guys or they're good women. They don't realize, you know, it's like, yeah, when I'm walking at night, I'm not scared, but when my girlfriend's walking at night or she's biking and she's not afraid of women, you know, she's afraid of men. And just like 2 nights ago, this man followed her on a bike after she like had an issue and had to get off, and he's like tried to stop and help her, and she's like pedaling away from him, and he kept being like, come back here, little lady, you know, kind of stuff. Like, I mean, she's constantly harassed, constantly abused and harassed and whatever by men. It's like, because she's a femme, she's a beautiful femme, Asian woman, you know, she's Chinese, so it's like, just like the men, so many men lose their minds about her. And like, and she actually has been in she's been in this dance thing, this like group in Austin that it's really marketed in a way where it really seems like clearly a female space, and for the most part, like for a while it was only women showing up to these dances because they're like pole dancing lessons and like other sexy floor work and things. And so she'll wear these insanely hot outfits, like lingerie stuff, you know, she's got all kinds of lingerie that's so fucking hot, and like she was wearing that and just being totally free in front of the women, and she would always come home just beaming with joy and just beginning to feel safe in these women and all expressing their femininity together. And then one day she went to do a yoga class before a dance class. So she only had like a change of clothes, like just the clothes she was going to wear to the dance class. And there's just a dude there in basketball shorts. And she's like, and he was non-binary. Yeah. And so she had to like keep her like shirt on and button it up and like try to never be behind him or like in front of him, so that she's doing a cat-cow with her ass in his face. Like, and so, yeah. And then the next class, there was a trans woman, but she felt safe with her. You know, and it felt like she could see her like joy and getting to be feminine with everyone. And then recently she comes on another day and there's a trans woman who doesn't seem like a woman to her. And now she's just like, fuck, like I really had this safe space, and it sucks because this whole thing is such a mess, and you're just not allowed to say, not publicly anyway, you're just not allowed to say, and you can lose friends to, even if you say it privately, if you say, hey, I'm not really comfortable with that trans woman, I feel uncomfortable around, you know, that energy doesn't seem safe to me, you know, you might get kicked out of the whole
So this is
place.
Like the lesbian civil war, dude.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
This is, so when you were describing, like last night you were talking about how there was like the number of lesbian bars in the country has went down to 18, and then you're like,
I went down to 15. Last I heard, it's up to 22.
Okay, so things are going in the right direction. Seems like would you say that like
till we have less than one per like half the states?
I
like
know that's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah.
But would you say that like that actually happened because of the issues that like you're describing, where it's just so hard? It's exclusion issues.
Yes, definitely. A lot of them died over the course of the last kind of. Maybe they started going up like 2 years ago when the Lesbian Bar Project kind of made that announcement and said like, let's try harder. But for the 10 years prior to that, I think lesbian bars were going downhill, and it's just the entire community. The sense of community has really been degraded over the last 10 years, just as the Tumblr ideology kind of took hold of.
What's the Tumblr ideology?
Like Tumblr was where a lot of these kids were exchanging ideas about gender ideology and learning how to wield the power of kind of how to make someone into a pariah if they said the wrong, and prove that they were a bad guy if you were, I was not involved in that. I've just like seen it dissected and heard people talk about it, but apparently it was just kind of the kids raising each other on there and like learning how to play gotcha games and philosophy games with gender. And so a lot of people started, like a lot of lesbians started identifying as gender neutral or like, non-binary or various things, and identifying out of womanhood. And so it increasingly, and then a few years after, because that's like 2012 is when there started to be more and more of the like lesbians opting out of womanhood. And then in the years kind of after that, being non-binary, being they, them, being he, they, being he, him, became more and more prevalent. So if you do see someone who looks like me or anywhere in this kind of like mask of center area, then we really don't know. Like, are you a lesbian? Are you a boy? Are you a whatever? Like, and if you're on testosterone, a lot of times taking testosterone makes you attracted to men. So like that can change.
Really?
Yeah, it's very common. Lesbians or artists formerly known as lesbians will take testosterone and then they will become usually bisexual.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But, I mean, partly it's like you're getting hornier with the testosterone.
Would that happen like to men? Like, would Rogan go by if they put him on enough TRT?
I always wonder about that because they do say that gay men have more testosterone than straight men.
That's fucking sick, dude. That's why they're all
it's
jacked.
It's my fantasy. Yeah. You got to get the extra hip workout in. So a lot of times, and I think, it makes sense. You become hornier and you... you're now going to be less attractive to women. And so your options, you need to widen your options if you're a trans dude. Because now it's hard. It's like I joke in the special, like it's hard to get laid as a 5'3" man. So short games aren't doing as well as some people would like you to believe. And so, but it's pretty easy to get railed if you want to get on Grindr and go, hey, I'm a boy with 2 pussies or whatever, whatever. Yeah. And that's, and not only that, there's some people who like have a lot of experiences, negative experiences with men, and then they become lesbians, and then they actually are still attracted to men, and they have to be men in order to have self-respect while dating men and fucking men. I mean, there's a lot of different dynamics, and any of these dynamics I'm putting out, it's not everybody's story. I've known a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people. There's a lot of different things going on, and it's definitely a well-established thing that trans men taking testosterone often become bisexual.
Sick.
So if you want to go find some of that sweet boy pussy, you can double team a man if you want to. I guess you could do 3 holes, right? Yeah. So is there a word for that? Not just spit roasting, but DP and
DPN.
DP 2 on this end and 1 on this end.
Brandon, don't.
I'm trying to figure out what to say.
I don't even know how you. Yeah, it's not gonna be good.
I got to DP and gave up. Yeah.
I don't know if you're allowed to Google that in Texas.
Yeah.
It might.
Oh my God. Yeah, the Texas porn ban.
Well, it's not a porn ban. It was an age verification thing, and then Pornhub and a couple places decided to opt out. Which I assume what they're saying is that in order to age verify, you have to like type in your driver's license number or something.
Yes.
So that makes it so that you're giving up and you're like saying this is the porn I'm watching as this person, which they probably already know who we are anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's IP address tracking.
IP address. Yeah.
The thing for me is and I know this is like an overused trope, but I genuinely can see both sides on this issue.
Yeah.
Like 100%. To me, it makes sense, and it's a problem, genuinely, that we have 10-year-olds that are watching hours of porn every day.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up, and that's not good. Like, I remember, like, as a kid, getting access to the internet, me and my friends fucking around as, like, middle school boys, looking stuff up online. It's not good for the mind.
No.
To have that in there all through high school, through your development. I think, like, it causes an overstimulation that, like, in the long run is not great for you.
It desensitizes you. It gives you weird ideas about, especially female sexuality. Yeah.
Like what's normal. Like, all these girls are getting fucking railed on there. Like, it's not
making those dolphin noises.
Honestly, you know what's the craziest thing about that is, like, just me personally, I don't know if this contributed to that, but, like, just, like, rough sex and, like, screaming, never liked it at all. Have never been into it. Even the slightest. But the other side of it is, we are, like, actually proving that we need to, like, verify that someone is that person in order to be watching something. And there is, like, a lot of, like, libertarian ideas that kind of, like, runs against, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how we would verify age without giving up anonymity and privacy. But I mean, you would wish that parents would keep their kids off of smartphones until they're 16, at least. You would hope that parents would try to be more involved with what their kids are watching. And I realize some parents work 4 jobs or whatever, but, like, there's also just a lot of, like, ignorant, lazy parenting happening. So I think that should be a bigger part of the equation. I'm not really sure I can't conceive of a good way to do age verification. And it does seem like, hey, there's, like, porn on Twitter, man. Like, how are you going to keep kids from seeing porn at all? Yeah, maybe it'd be good to keep them off of X and XX and, you know, all the kind of crazy places. But I don't know that you can do that. I think we need better ways to, and I don't know, I'm not a parent, so I don't really know what the guardrails you could put in place are, but there are probably programs to keep your kids' internet browser and their phone from being able to access adult sites, like, and if that's not perfectly functional, then we should be working on that, like how to put in that kind of blocking software.
I remember getting around that as a kid.
Yeah,
right?
and sometimes kids are going to get around it, but even putting an impediment stops a lot of kids from doing it.
Yeah, where
and it
it's
slows
like
you down.
Just easily, I'm with you on that.
Availability is a big thing. If you're trying to get someone off of an addictive substance like porn, availability is huge. If you can go to your friend and get it, you'll get it. If you have to figure out how to do it, you might not.
That's such a good point, because that, like, totally runs contrarian to, like, the idea, which is just like, oh, they're gonna just be able to figure out how to find it. It's like, yeah, they might.
So we may as well hand them the crack. Like, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense at all.
And we all know for our own, like, willpower, right? Like, yeah, like, if you wanted to, you could drive to the store and get Oreos, but you probably aren't gonna do that. If you bought yourself the Oreos already and they're home, you're going to go get them. And so that's the kind of thing where you make that decision when you're at the store to go, I'm going to make this easier for my future self, because you know how willpower works. So the idea that you go, they'll find it anyway, so may as well just hand it to them. No.
Very stupid.
Let's make them have to drive to the store at least.
Yeah, I totally see that. And it's like, I think one of the things that I saw online too, I'm not sure how true this is, but there was some sort of move to ban social media for minors, and one of the big, why can't I think of what the opposite word of advocate is? What's
poo-pooer?
Yeah, one of the big, one of the big antagonists against this was, like, a trans rights activist group, was saying, like, hey, we should not have a social media ban for kids.
Yeah, that's how we convince them they're trans. So don't take that away from us. I mean, there are...
Clip it.
No, I mean, this thing is, like, there are crazy people, influencers, like Jeffrey March, who's, like, not even trans, just some weird dude who thinks that, you know, who calls himself non-binary and has a beard and wears makeup. And it's just a creepy, creepy guy. And his whole thing is, like, kids, like, divorce yourself from your parents and come subscribe to my Patreon. It's super creepy. And there's people like that who literally are preying on kids and are grooming them. There's so many people, and I know people who have detransitioned, who like just kind of various stages of regret about it, and who go like, yeah, no, I was on Tumblr too much, I was on YouTube too much, whatever. I was walking, I thought this would solve all my problems. Turns out I actually had all these other mental disorders and traumas that I was dealing with. But people kept saying, and they show me like, God, I'm so happy when I get on testosterone. I'm so happy when I'm on estrogen, and they think it's going to solve all their problems, and then it doesn't, and it causes more. And there's even a lot of these influencers, just the way there's mukbangers who are now dead from overeating and stuff, and they get rewarded for it, and all of us just, you got to hate watch this, and I'm like, stop hate watching those people. They're gonna die. They're gonna you're making the world a worse place. I think everyone is hate watching Dylan. I don't think anybody likes Dylan Mulvaney, but like everyone gives him the attention, and so then he just keeps going. And I say he because I don't believe, but whatever, I don't know. I'm not gonna do she for Dylan, but what was I trying to say?
Dylan is such a great name
people.
for an obnoxious woman, by the way. Just like great man's name, real brutal.
Because they didn't even change their name, right? Dylan. I assume Dylan was their name before, and they just kept it, which it's cute. It's an androgynous name, but it's like, but you're not close enough to feminine for it to feel like that it's a woman's name. Yeah. So you don't seem like a woman in any way. So you seem like an obnoxious diggity. I mean, I'm still half convinced that he's trolling all of us, or they, or whatever. I don't know, whatever. That this is a weird troll.
Do you think like the nuances of like what you're bringing to the table with the gender stuff is like, it's right? It is like an extremely nuanced take on the whole thing.
Extreme nuance. That's how I should be presented.
Dude, 100%. But like when I listen to you talk, I hear like, I'm so on board with what you're saying, but I hear like the hard left and the hard right just like falling off and losing their minds.
That's why it's so hard, especially with clips and things. Like it's so hard because I am extremely nuanced, and the far left all hates me, the far right all hates me, and I'm trying to get. I know that most of us are in the middle, so but then trying to get attention that way, trying to get eyeballs on it is very difficult because the stuff that like gets the eyeballs is the crazy fringe stuff.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is like, do you think the average person is like smart enough to be able to like have this kind of like perspective on gender and relationships and human nature?
The average person who is smart enough to discuss anything, yes. It's always hard because like most people are so dumb, so it's like it's hard to say the average person, you know what I mean? But if you take out like the bottom 20% of intelligence,
the great George Carlin joke, which is think about how dumb the average American is, and then remember half of them are dumber than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you got to take out some of the dumbest people from the average. But if you say like people who are like a slightly above average intelligence, yes, I think everybody slightly above average intelligence can get here. I mean, so many people are just so full of propaganda, like, and they really don't know that there's propaganda. They just hear their scientific studies backing things up, and they never look into it. They don't read the methodology, things like that. And so, and it's just, if everyone in your circle all believes the same thing and keeps saying the same things, they just don't know. And so it's like just trying to expose people on the left and the right to different perspectives. We got to, because it's not good for each of the fringes to be pushing more of the country. But I would just want to finish my point real quick about how I was going to say that there's all these trans influencers who have gotten people, who have convinced lots of people to transition, who then later it turns out, well, their surgery like actually fucked them up and they can never have orgasms, or they're like, well, I've like got this other like health issue because of it. Like there's stuff, and they don't talk about that stuff online. They only show, just like we all.
Do you think it's because they get dragged when they talk about something like that, or
it can be, but it's also because Instagram and TikTok and all these places are all about just showing how fabulous you are and showing how how good it is, and getting people. And so you need people to keep loving you and going yeah. But then yes, also if they were to change their mind, I mean, it's like apostasy, and people will excommunicate them if they come out and say, hey, actually this is a really hard part. If you try, like I remember ContraPoints, the Natalie Wynn chick, very popular YouTuber, at one point or the other tried to give a nuanced view of something, and absolutely her fans just canceled the fuck out of her.
Damn, dude. Yeah, it's
nuance is hard.
I mean, I think that's the point of this whole pod. I think is, yeah, dude. Arielle, I love listening to you when you talk about this stuff. I think it's like super fucking interesting. So
thanks, man.
Thank you so much. They've got another pod in here at 3, so we got or 2, so we got to dip out. But anything you want to plug on the way out?
My podcast, Politically Non-Binary, available on YouTube, Spotify, wherever. And go to my Ellen DeGenderless on Instagram or OnlyFans. But on Instagram, you can also find the link to my special. Ellen DeGenderless is also the name of it. I'm going to have to change that one day. Yeah.
I've already changed. We're 6 episodes into this podcast, and I've already changed the name. So,
nice.
All right. That's it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you very much. You know where to find producer Brandon Lejean, Legend ERE. Or Legend E, whatever.
Yeah, they'll find it. Not right, but
you know where to find him. See you guys.